the laws of Purim, the halachot and minhagim of Purim, part 2. And we were discussing different halachot regarding the writing of the Megillah. And we said last week, for those of you who weren't here, we said very interesting that Rabbi Yosef Messas, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, the cousin of Rabbi Shalom Messas, and he lived in Haifa. He lived in Haifa, and he was he lived in Meknes, obviously, the beginning of his life, and towards the end of his life, when he came to Eretz Israel, he lived in Haifa, chief rabbi of Haifa. And he, here, why don't you come sit over here? And he was a very, besides being a tremendous Talmid Chacham, oh, very good. Besides being a tremendous Talmid Chacham, he was a prolific writer. And not only a writer, but a scribe. That we mentioned yesterday, where Rabbi Moshe Malka said that the writing of Rabbi Yosef Messas embarrassed the printing press. It was so beautiful. Not only that, he had many different talents. And in his Megilla that he wrote, so there's somebody, I forget his name unfortunately, but somebody wrote a beautiful synopsis of different halachot that Rabbi Yosef Messas implemented when he made his own Megillah. Not only did he make his Megillah, he made the parchment. He made the different threads, the gidin, in order to sew the Megillah. Not only that, the silver casing he made himself. The story that I said last week was that there was a silversmith who wanted to learn Torah, and that silversmith said, "Teach me Torah." So Rabbi Yosef Messas said, "You teach me to be the silversmith trade, and I'll teach you Torah." So that's how he made his own case, a beautiful case. That was So there are certain halachot that I want to speak in general, with also the Megillah of Rabbi Yosef Messas, about the writing of the Megillah, what the Sfaradim and what our minhag is, specifically about the writing of the Megillah, what our minhag is. So the first is like this. The Rama writes in Siman Taf Resh Tzadi Aleph. The Rama writes in Siman Taf Resh Tzadi Aleph like this. We spoke about last week about making pictures, and he had pictures on it. Pictures, many say that pictures are allowed. The Rama says. Rama says like this. The Shulchan Aruch says that in Seif Bet, the Shulchan Aruch writes, V'tzricha amud besofa. The Megillah needs an amud, which means a stick at the end of it. V'chalak berosha, and clear at the beginning of it. Kedei le'akifa bo, so you can roll it. The halacha is that I think it's written in Masechet Sofrim that a Sefer Torah needs 2 amudim, and all the other ktavim need 1 amud, right? And some say you also need to have the crowns on top of the letters. The Rama says, you'll notice many Ashkenaz Megillas, they don't have a amud at the end. For Sfaradim, it's a big problem. Kafachayim brings certain shitot, even if it could be b'diavad me'akev. L'alacha, we're posek that b'diavad it could be okay. But I once saw a very big Sephardic Talmid Chacham, a very big Sephardic Talmid Chacham. He came with his Megillah to read, and it didn't have any amud. It was just a regular cloth. And I showed him the halacha. I said, it's befurash that we have to have an amud. So he looked into it. He was a Talmid Chacham who was true to his word. He looked into it, and he says, wow, you're right. And the next day he came with an amud. And Rabbi Yosef in his Megillah, he would have an amud. He would have an amud because that's the minhag of the Sfaradim. We have a stick at the end of the Megillah that we should be able to roll the Megillah, and that's what's written in Masechet Sofrim. that all of the ktavim, all of the Kitvei HaKodesh, they have Amud Besofa, and that's how Maran is posek. Also, we're machmir on all the tagim. That's also in his Megillah was that way as well. Okay, another very important thing is that it became the style recently to buy Megillot that have at the beginning of each column written Hamelech. The beginning of each at the beginning of each column written Hamelech. You ever heard of these Megillot? In each column written Hamelech, and people say, look, it's a Megillah Mehuderet. It's written Hamelech. This Chumrah of Hamelech is not written anywhere. It's not even a Chumrah. Some people say, well, because Hashem is he's the Melech. But a lot of times Sofrim write it and they get into tremendous problems because then they have to like set up the Megillah, that they make much smaller letters because of it, and it could be there could be a lot of problems with it. Now, Rav the Kol Yaakov, which is the Sefer of the Kaf HaChaim, brings that minhag Baghdad they would have it, but it was not our minhag, and it was not the minhag. There's not really a lot of mikvot that discuss it at all, and it's not a minhag that definitely was mitpashet by us. Now, Rav Ovadia writes mutar. It's allowed for a guy that definitely doesn't endorse such a minhag. So that's Yosef also in his Megillah. He did not specifically have the Amelech at the beginning. Okay, that's about Hamelech. Now,
the cause problems with the ball court also. He might accidentally read a Melech.
In other words, he might read it the wrong column.
Right.
He might get mixed up with the wrong column. Okay, now I'm not going to get into all of the different a lot of the different technical details because that already is going to it's going to go beyond the scope of our shiur. But I want to discuss one more minhag that we've discussed in the past, which is the minhag that it's quite disturbing. It's quite disturbing, but somebody brought to my attention that they put up on a certain halacha, Moroccan halacha, that the minhag by us was that ladies do not go hear the Megillah during the day, just by the night. Now, where does this come from? It was actually a practice that the women would be lenient and they would not go during the day, but you can't endorse it and call that was the proper minhag. The halacha states specifically that women, just like men, chayavim chayavin be'oto hanes, they were also part of the miracle, right? Esther was a focal point of the Megillah, and therefore, just like we're chayav to hear the Megillah during the night and during the day, so two women are chayav to hear the Megillah during the night and during the day. But Rabbi Haim Messas, which is the father of Rabbi Yosef Messas, writes such a thing that their minhag was that ladies wouldn't go, and he said because they're busy already preparing, so they're like maybe it's osek b'mina mitzvah patur mina mitzvah. He found a couple of smuchin, but it's not. I mean, it's not so simple that we could just say, okay, well that's the minhag, and therefore women are patur. Maybe a certain family that knew that specifically that they don't have, and the woman is actually very busy, which he says that's the reason. Maybe yesh al ma lismoch, and that's very difficult to understand. It's difficult to hear. In Magen Avot we spoke about it. We said that it could be that according to some shitot, the night is more important than the day. That doesn't mean that the day is not an obligation. The day is for sure an obligation. Somebody brought to my attention that even there a certain Ashkenazi website found this halacha and said it's the erroneous minhag. Is obviously it's not true. Okay, I mean they do have a point that it's a difficult minhag to try to be miyashiv. Why women wouldn't go to the Megillah during the day? There was such a minhag. I'm not saying there wasn't, but it's not a minhag that you could just come along and say, well, this is what we have to do. Those who had such a minhag, it's going to be very difficult to understand why they're noheg that way. They could be lenient. not to make it a blanket rule and say that that it's okay, and definitely those who don't have that minhag, and I'm sure there was many places in Morocco that women would listen to the Megillah during the day. Of course, women have to listen at night. Women have to listen during the day. That's okay. We spoke last week about the different in Parashat Zachor that women are not obligated in Parashat Zachor. This year is a special year in regards to the Megillah and the Havdalah, because this year we're going to have right by Motzei Shabbat the Megillah. Now there is a huge machloket what to do by the Megillah. Do we do the Havdalah afterwards? Do we do the Havdalah before? Do we only do Borei Meorei Esh before and then the Havdalah afterwards? As usual, it's a machloket, and all that over here, the minhag is also a machloket. So the minhag is to have a different minhag. Everybody's to have a different minhag. That's what come out. The Maharash Ibn Sur writes in his Sidur. This is brought down by Rabbi Yosef Ben Naim, has a Shelot Utshuvot She'eri Tatzon, and he brings down that their minhag was to do Havdalah, and then they would read the Megillah. And Rabbi David Ovadia Nagua also writes they would do Havdalah, and then they would do the Megillah.
Purim's really not that day anyways.
What?
Purim is not that day anyways, right?
Purim Motzei Shabbat.
It was on Shabbat itself, and got pushed up, right?
No, Purim. I think Purim falls out on Motzei Shabbat. Yudalit falls out on Motzei Shabbat.
Yudalit is on Motzei Shabbat.
Yeah. So you do. So Rabbi Shalom Messas also says that he was mikabel. It's very interesting how this comes out. He was mikabel from the from his father. That's the original. That's the proper minhag. To make Havdalah and then to do the Megillah, and to do the Megillah. Now the issue is because you're going to be neheneh from the lights all the time. So why don't you make why don't you do it beforehand? So some people say Pekudat El-Azad says just do Borei Meorei Esh and you wait for Havdalah for afterwards. The latest you wait for Havdalah, the better, right? And I wrote that originally Magen Avot Borei Meorei Esh, and then I would do the Havdalah, and then we would do the Megillah and then the Havdalah. But the truth is, I changed it in the new edition. But the truth is that in the new Magen Avot that's going to come up is that Hashem, I changed it. That the minhag was all of the Havdalah would be done, and then the Megillah is going to be read. And then the Megillah is going to be read. However, it's interesting. Is Rabbi Baruch Toledano writes no. The minhag by us he argues on the whole thing. Let's do Havdalah at the end. And Rabbi Avram Amar, who was a nephew, I think, of Rabbi Toledano, who wrote in the back of my book, Rabbi Avram Amar, should give him refuah shlema, also writes that that's the minhag by us. And he says why? Because anyways we do malacha. So you have to do Borei Meorei Esh before. What's different than the rest of the year that we always do malacha and we benefit from the light and we can do Havdalah later? So we here do just do Havdalah later, benefit from the light. You said already Baruch HaMavdil because you said Tachonatanu, you said Shemona Esrei already. Yeah, you already said Havdalah and Shemona Esrei, so it's okay. You'll benefit from the light. You said Tachonatanu and Shemona Esrei. You wait Havdalah till the end. He says that's the proper minhag. So I think most people do like Rabbi Shalom Messas and Rabbi Nahagua Am, and I wrote that's the ikar. But you should know that Rabbi Baruch Toledano and others right to do Havdalah afterwards. So just interesting that the two different perspectives over here and the reason why. I don't. There are some who will also do a third opinion, which is only Borei Meorei Esh, then the Megillah, and then the Havdalah. So there is a third opinion as well. So it's a big discussion. It's a big discussion. Okay. Now, Machatzita Shekel, every single year people ask, what was our minhag of Machatzita Shekel? Because the Kaf HaChaim brings down such a chumrah. He says somebody who's able to afford it, they should pay Machatzita Shekel according to the silver dollar's worth. According to the silver dollar, very famous chumrah. Some years $9, some years $12. Depends what the market of the silver. I haven't seen it come out yet. By us, the minhag was not to be machmir, and that we would have 3 half coins. 3 half coins. I saw some people say instead of being machmir, all of the chumrot of mishloach manot, sending to your this and add to this, spending so much money, give machatzita shekel according to the opinion of the Kaf HaChaim. And for everyone in the family, $9 to $12 goes to support tzedakah. It's definitely a beautiful thing to do. Mikara din, the minhag was that to take a coin, the common coin that's over there, we try to get the half dollars that there are, and we use those half dollars for machatzita shekel. The people take them and then they buy them back. And that way they would do machatzita shekel. Now, there is such a problem whenever you're going to buy them back from the gabbai. In other words, you buy them from the gabbai because it's a whole question that if you're just borrowing them back from the gabbai, you're not really giving tzedakah. You can't just take it from the gabbai and give it. You have to actually buy it from him, put in the money, and then take it, and then you have to give the money at the end. You can't just take it from the gabbai. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything yet. Okay, it's going to be a short shiur today because we have a Talmid Chacham over here that wants to give a little bit of a drasha. I just wanted to mention maybe one more interesting halacha is that the Shulchan Aruch says Sarich sheyomar arur Haman ubaruch Mordechai arura zeresh uberucha Esther arurim kol hareshaim bruchim kol hatzadikim. We have a minhag by us that not only do we bang during Haman, I don't know if you've seen this, but like you'll have people belting out in the back in the middle of the Megillah, Arur Haman, Arur. Well, have sake, you're in the middle of the Megillah. How are you able to do that? The answer is that the Levush already writes this. That a person, when he hears Haman, he could say, "No, we have Shem v'Shaim Yirkav." Yamach Shemo v'Zichro. Allowed to do that, and the Magen Avraham brings it down. Mishnah Berurah brings it down. There's no have sake. It's the Tzorech HaMegillah. It's the Tzorech HaMegillah. Moshe Feinstein, Ora Chaim Simon Kav Tzadik Bet, also discusses this, and he says maybe it's better not to do it. And Rabbi Didier Motsonego, chief rabbi of previous chief rabbi of Morocco, writes also it's better not to do it. Better not to do it. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he even quotes from Moshe Feinstein, Rabbi Didier Motsonego, which is better not. Torah was universal, yeah, all over, from New York to Morocco, all the same Torah. But Lemaaseh, the minhag was a lot of people do it, and Yeshua Manismo. That is the talkers have to give big dolim, the levush, and others. They said it was Letzarech Megillah. So you can't scream at them. If you see people yelling it out, you can't scream at them. What I did see was somebody say this year that if you're by the Ashkenazim listening to the Megillah, they do the bracha of Shechianu during the day. We don't do the bracha of Shechianu during the day. So if you listen to the bracha of Shechianu, you answer Amen, it's a hefsek for you until you start the Megillah. So you should say the first pasuk Vayibi Mechas V'rosh quietly. It's not so simple because there are opinions who say same question when a woman by Hadlakat Nerot says Shechianu. Some women say Shechianu b'shat Hadlakat Nerot. So how could they answer Amen to the husband Shechianu and Kiddush? It could be a hefsek. So some poskim say it's not called a hefsek because since the husband has a tzorah that he's being yotzeh, so for you to answer Amen, it's not a hefsek. So over here too would be the same thing. But it's not it's an interesting point that they brought up. Our minhag once again is not to say Shechianu during the day. Okay, these are a couple of halachot of Purim be'ezrat Hashem. Well, next week we'll start learning Hilchot Pesach. Start learning Hilchot Pesach.